I'm Michael CHERNUS, and I play Michael Watts, who's a music journalist working on a freelance basis for Jazz World magazine and desperately trying to get an interview with Keith Jarrett. In the film, Michael is a really interesting character because he kind of exists maybe out of time and even sort of out of place. Like there's a question of, does he even really exist, or is what he what we see him doing, did that really happen? He's kind of this narrator, tour guide, like music teacher, bringing us along on this journey and kind of helping us put Keith Jarrett in a larger perspective of the history of jazz. Michael does kind of serve as a narrator of the film. There are some voiceover segments where he's just, you don't even see him, he's narrating and telling us, kind of setting the scene, setting the backdrop. I also love that he serves as kind of a bridge from story to story and connects these different parts, because the film travels over time and kind of goes back in time and flashes forward. And there are some great sound effects that use the sound of like a tape reel rewinding or fast forwarding. And Michael helps be that kind of sound engineer, a recorder, a recording artist, like bringing us back to the previous take or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big music head. I love music. It's one of my passions, and I love all kinds of music. And I always had a real appreciation for jazz because I love improvisational music, but I'd never done a huge deep dive before, especially on this period of jazz. And so playing this role and doing this film has been a real education for me. I didn't know a ton about Keith Jarrett before doing this movie. And not only learning about this solo tour, but just kind of his whole body of work has been really interesting and edifying for me. This period that we're kind of investigating in this film is really interesting. It's what jazz almost becomes kind of punk rock at this time. And, like artists like Miles, like going electric with like this full band, and there's a real kind of rhythm and drive to it. It's not kind of this languid, kind of loungy, slow jazz, which I also appreciate, but there's like a real pulse to it. The Vera Brandes character and all of her friends just bring this youth and vitality to it. There's a real energy to the younger characters in the film, and it really propels the film along. Yeah, the shooting was wonderful. We shot a lot in Cologne in Germany, and then we were in the Bavarian countryside, and then we were in Poland, and it was such a wonderful experience. And the people were so great. Our crew was incredible, and it really added to the authenticity of the story. Like, you really felt that journey that Keith was taking through Europe at the time. And I think for John Magaro and I, who are Americans, it was wonderful to be immersed in German culture and be in Europe and maybe get a little taste of what Keith and Michael were experiencing. Yeah, our little trio of myself and John Magaro and Alexander Scheer were, it was so fun. Those guys are such great actors and such great people. And it was just such a blast to especially do those scenes in the car together, because I feel like our little trio had just such a fun energy. Yeah, those scenes were great. And we're kind of, strange to say now, but we're the older guys and there's the younger kids. And I feel like those two stories, there's like just rhythmically, even musically, there's a real staccato energy to the younger stuff. And then there's this legato section of the quiet, contemplative moments in the car. There were so many memorable moments during this production, but one of them for me was the day we shot what we called the jazz corridor, which is this long monologue that my character has, kind of walking the audience through the history of jazz, and especially American jazz, just placing Keith Jarrett in that history and this tour in the history of jazz. And so it's this long shot. It was supposed to be one shot, but then we kind of broke it into two parts with one cut in the middle. It's this incredibly long take where I'm mostly speaking directly into the camera, which in and of itself is a strange device. Like, as an actor, you don't usually speak right into the lens. And I went into all of these rooms that we had set up on set where there were either live musicians playing or projections of like Count Basie's big band, or and having to orchestrate both my monologue with the live music and the lights and sounds and going to room. It was just a real intricate thing that we had to rehearse over and over again. So that was a big day for me. Working with Ido is a blast. He is so smart and so kind, but kind of understated. He doesn't say a lot at first. He just kind of lets you explore it. But you have this sense as an actor that he knows exactly what he wants. So he really rides this fine line of being very specific about how the scene should go, but also allowing this room for creativity and exploration. So it was a really fun way to work. Ido trusts his actors greatly, and I also trust him very deeply. And when you establish that kind of communication, you can say a lot without having to use many words. Like, sometimes he could just say a word and I understood what he meant. He was so invested in the story, and having written it as well, Ido just knew it like the back of his hand. So there didn't need to be a lot of explanation sometimes. It was just, let's get to it. Imperfections and spontaneity were kind of key to making this film because it's about jazz, and jazz is, you know, I don't know if I want to say primarily, but it is an improvisational art form. It allows for exploration. We kind of wanted to approach the filmmaking like playing jazz. And so there had to be a lot of freedom in it, but also freedom within a structure. You know, Ido was open to improvisation, but it was interesting because the script was so good and so specific. He didn't really want to improvise because it was all very, very correct. Yes, having the real Vera around has been incredible, and she's so open about her story. It has been really very moving to have her be a part of the film. It's such a German story. It's a universal story, but it really celebrates German culture and the German music scene in the 70s. And Vera is this iconic German woman.